I just saw the other night Alex Garland's latest film, Warfare, which he co-directed with Ray Mendoza, a real-life veteran of the Iraq War and a Navy SEAL veteran, based on his own experiences in the area of Ramadi, Iraq, and how they were cornered in this one area by insurgents and did everything they could at their disposal to get out of there alive. Besides Joseph Quinn and Will Poulter, it's mostly a slew of unknowns. It's a group of Navy SEALs or Marines or soldiers that are stuck in this one area, and they're preparing themselves for a conflict that's about to erupt between them and the local insurgents, all taking place in the runtime of an hour and a half. As opposed to other films like Saving Private Ryan, We Were Soldiers, or the Band of Brothers miniseries, where there's a set of battles that take place over a certain period of time. And even though there are some small setups and payoffs, there's not really much of a story arc to this whole thing. And in that respect, I would say it's very similar to Lone Survivor and Dunkirk, where it's all about the battle and how horrifying it is when you're stuck in the thick of it. This movie is actually a very effective feat in showing just how horrific warfare can be in our modern times. But it also shows the mundane nature of warfare, and how the guys are waiting for combat to erupt, the snipers looking out through the window, counting the amount of people walking by, getting the idea that there's a conflict about to erupt, even though they know it's coming, but the shock of it still hits you when the battle starts. And the sense of disorientation that sets in when a certain IED goes off as they try to run. There's little to no sound for about maybe 3 minutes, no, even 5 minutes actually, where you can't hear anything because of the loud blast that occurs right near them, similar to Saving Private Ryan as Tom Hanks is looking around, seeing all this horror unfold right in front of him. A similar thing happens here, but then it's revealed two of their guys are wounded and they have to be dragged back inside in order to be taken care of until help arrives. And there are occasional cuts to overhead drone footage or helicopter footage that shows insurgents and US troops on the ground moving from one location to the next. This is also a very realistic portrayal of urban operations. The way they portray the troops maneuvering through the streets in the combat zone, that's very realistic, and from my own experience, I've never saw combat, I never deployed, but I was in the Army National Guard for 6 years, and I remember going through urban ops training and basic training back in the day. Our drill sergeants taught us how to stand if we were in a certain position in the line. One looks this way, one looks the other way, one is ready to go through the door, and how they were pointing their rifles in certain directions. It's just small details, but that kind of attention to detail is perfect, and it certainly helps when one of your directors is a military veteran himself. As I mentioned earlier with the mostly unknown cast, Will Poulter and Joseph Quinn are the, I guess, more known people, if you will, and Michael Gandolfini, James Gandolfini's son, makes an appearance in here. Even they don't have the same type of star power as, say, somebody like Bradley Cooper in American Sniper, or Jeremy Renner in The Hurt Locker, or even Anthony Mackie in that film as well. They are known by some people, but not to the point where it kind of takes you out of the movie if you were to say, oh yeah, that person's in this movie. Because of the lack of star power in this, it adds, I think, a really needed sense of realism to this. It also occurred to me that the musical score is non-existent until the credits start rolling. It's all sound design and sound effects, from the combat, the dialogue, the communications on the radios. From my own experience, I was finding myself watching like a hawk in the background, seeing if there was anybody coming. I mean, there's not really much to spoil in here, but without being too specific, there's one instance where 2 Bradley tanks come in to evacuate these US troops out of this area. The way they just start firing on the nearby rooftops to pin down the enemy combatants, the sound effects, and the way they're just firing onto their surroundings, my mouth was hanging open the whole time. There was no big tracers coming out of their cannons, there was no flashy pyrotechnics. It all felt frighteningly realistic. And the film doesn't also hesitate to show the horrors of war, the psychological and emotional effects. Like one instance where Will Poulter, who's the commanding officer of this group, at a certain point towards the finale, he's visibly shaken, and he asks the guy who's in charge of the group that came to rescue them to take over the entire group to get him out of there. I also really like how we don't get the usual cliche tropes on how they're talking about home, their family, and how they get to reunite with their families. Not that I'm against those necessarily, but it is, in a way, kind of refreshing. And it does show the ambiguity of the battle, like what was the point of all that? Who won and who lost? I mean, not that I know what combat is like, but I think we can all agree that war is not black and white. It's very messy and gray and dirty, and there's really no clear answers. If anything, Alex Garland, if he were to direct another war film, he is, I think, one of the best guys to do so. In fact, there's a really great interview that Ray Mendoza did recently with these guys at The Bulwark, who I follow for current event political updates. I got the thumbnail right here for you, and I'll put the link in the description for you if you're curious. It's very, very fascinating to hear what his mindset was going into making this thing. And if you're a fan of the A24 films and Alex Garland's work, then I would say give this a watch, because so far anyway, this is the best movie this year. So that's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Comment below and tell me what your thoughts are on this movie if you've seen it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.